few hours ago, we had a relatively muted PlayStation showcase, but it was nice to finally get footage for the upcoming Assassin's Creed Mirage, as well as a release date of October 12th, which is pretty in line with past AC games. The trailer tells us a lot about how the game will look, and despite being light on gameplay itself, we do have a better idea of how the game will feel in our hands. As you can probably tell by the title, one thing that stood out to me was how much the game appears to be carrying over from Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Now, AC is no stranger to reusing assets, and some of its best games have been much more derivative of the past than Mirage will probably be, so I don't intend to judge it until we see more. But as many of us know, Mirage was originally intended to be a DLC add-on to Valhalla, and while they have had a lot of time to expand on the original idea, I think it's interesting to see how that influence continues to carry over even in a 2-minute trailer like this. I think a lot of people are expecting big changes from Mirage, and there are some things I hope do get reworked from Valhalla, but a lot of stuff does remain up in the air right now. But for now, here are some things that I did notice about this first AC Mirage gameplay trailer. If you want more content like this, you can follow me on my Patreon, which I have in the description. If you join, you'll be credited as a producer on my content, along with my single patron, Glebden. Honestly, I do have a day job and I like making this content, so I'm going to do it one way or another, so don't feel obligated to subscribe, but if you want to, that would be kind of you. The trailer starts off with 2 assassinations performed by Basim, an air assassination and a stealth assassination at the street level. It's worth noting that we are seeing Basim with his red and white outfit, which appears to be the outfit he dons after he completes his training fully and retires his blue and white robes. There isn't a ton to say about the air assassination, as those have remained pretty consistent throughout the years, but the other one is kind of interesting in that it kind of looks like an old Unity animation. Both Origins and Unity/Syndicate have this animation where the player will grab the enemy's head and stab them in the side of the neck, and initially I thought it was a carryover from Origins, but given the aggressiveness with which Bayek performs that initial grab and the beat between grabbing and stabbing, it kind of looks like this one was lifted from Unity and Syndicate more so. Could also just be a totally new animation, but based on how many animations do come from previous games later in this trailer, I'd be interested to see if they are actually reusing some from Unity. Next, we see footage of Basim and his bird, Enkidu, which is the name of a famous character from the Sumerian legends of Gilgamesh, who acted as the title character's closest companion. Whether or not that means Basim himself will have any narrative parallels to Gilgamesh remains to be seen. Could have just been a cool name for the eagle. We then cut to a clip of Basim on a camel, and we already knew there would be mounts in the game, and probably boats as well. But it's cool seeing just how much of the outskirts of the city it looks like we will be able to access. We also get a great look at the round city of Baghdad, and a good sense of the scale for what the city will look like. Reports that it will be comparable to Unity seem pretty believable based on this trailer. We hear narration by the great Shorag Dashlu, who has one of the most iconic voices in show business and plays Basim's mentor, who appeared in some DLC for Valhalla. She says, "You have died and been reborn," a concept that in some AC games represents a person's readiness to leave their past behind and fully commit to the Brotherhood. It's not always a staple of the series. We primarily see it in AC1, Unity, and to an extent Origins, but it's interesting to see that we are seemingly going back to a more traditionalist sect of the Hidden Ones here in this game, possibly more traditional than we've gotten since the very first game. Now we get some free running, and unfortunately it's kind of tough to get a good idea for how in-depth this free running will be. Recently there was a supposed leak showing Basim running with the exact running animations we got in Unity. So was that real? Is this the Unity animation? Unfortunately, from this trailer alone, I can't really see. I will say that not long after this we get footage of Basim pushing NPCs out of his way in a way that feels very reminiscent of Unity and Syndicate compared to what we got in the later games. Could be a sign that some of the basic movement is kind of in line with those games. However, Unity and Syndicate did have a looseness to their movements that I wasn't huge on, where sometimes it would feel like Arno was gliding off posts instead of landing and pushing off of them. Origins went a bit far in the other direction with meaty impact on every jump, and it kind of looks like Basim will control closer to that. However, we do get to see that there are many more options for free running than any of the last 3 games got. We see multiple different directions that Basim can go at any given time, in contrast with the tightrope paths we had in Valhalla. None of it is mind-blowing, but it is reminiscent of the older games when it comes to how the city creates paths within itself to allow players to do stylish things automatically. What remains to be seen is how far players can push the system beyond those paths. We don't see any side ejects or control descent inputs as far as I can see, just very basic vaulting, swinging, and jumping that never really went away in the more recent games, just became less common. It is nice that they're emphasizing parkour starters and these pre-made pathways, but we don't actually see anything in this trailer that looks radically different from what we could do as Eivor. Seeing this pole vaulting animation is nice though, and it's always cool to get new traversal options in these games beyond different ways to climb up or jump. We then get some action of Basim using one of the colorful red smoke bombs that Ubisoft has been advertising, and we don't get a lot here, but in Valhalla the only real smoke option was the smoke arrow that got added in the DLC, and that thing sucked. So the fact that smoke bombs can be a big part of the gameplay loop at all has me hopeful that they've made some tweaks to enemy AI that allows for more options for slipping in and out of detection. We then see what appears to be a setup for a stealth infiltration mission of some kind, possibly a black box mission. Unfortunately, while Basim and his unknown ally discuss ways he can manipulate the situation to his benefit, i.e. bribing the guards, it's very much a tell-don't-show situation for this trailer in particular. We only see some pretty standard stealth, and it remains to be seen how Hitman-esque our level of freedom will be, given that even in Unity we had pretty limited options for different ways we could manipulate the environment to kill our targets. Also, moving away from stealth for a moment, we see what appears to be a cutscene, and the facial animations do look quite similar to Valhalla. That doesn't surprise me, and I think people should be ready for the game to have a bit less cinematic flair than you might hope for a shorter AC experience. As a reminder, this was only meant to be a Valhalla DLC. Changing our actors' contracts to include full mocap and facial capture schedules is a big ask. I wouldn't be surprised if facial capture and mocap are pretty minimal in this game. Total speculation on my part, I do not know how Ubisoft decided to use their time and money, and we have no idea if this cutscene even matters in the full context of the game. But they actively didn't show us any impressive facial capture, and I wouldn't be surprised if they kept things light on that end. Now, while we don't actually see Basim bribe the guards, we do get a look at this guy, and he makes me think one thing in particular. They really did a slow-mo pan shot and let one of the three guys in the frame have his sword clipping through his shoulder, floating beneath his hand. I mean, it's a 2-minute trailer. They had to have caught it. Anyhow, when it comes to stealth, we see Basim using a throwing knife, which I imagine will be more important here than it has been since Syndicate, since he doesn't have a bow, which was a staple of the last 3 games. Also, this ledge assassination appears to be the same as Valhalla's, with more of a punching motion into the enemy with a closed fist, as opposed to a grab. We also get some pickpocketing, which is pretty cool to see because we haven't really gotten that in earnest in a while, and then Basim uses the key he got from that to make a door swing open automatically in a very awkward Valhalla-esque fashion, and then we cut outside to Basim on a bench. We see time speeding up here, making me wonder if this is actually Basim passing time like you can in the other 3 games with the meditation feature, or if it is just a trailer trick. Either way, being able to control what time it is a helpful thing, and I hope we do get to see it. After some more assassinating, we get a glimpse of what appears to be the new chain assassinate feature that they teased in the cinematic trailer. We see outlines of a pathway that Basim can take to assassinate all 3 guards, but to be honest, I am surprised by how far away they all are from one another and how far Basim is from the first guard he kills, because it looks like he kills the furthest one away first. This ability will be very overpowered if you can kill enemies that far away from one another without ever getting detected. It has me wondering if this ability is actually going to be similar to the teleport assassination from AC Odyssey, where Cassandra would instantly appear at the spear she threw after throwing it. It kind of looks like here that Basim is actually fading into existence before killing this final guard. I know people are hoping this game will be more grounded, and to be honest, while I kind of like the ability in Odyssey, it would feel more out of place here. I'm going to go ahead and wait to see more from this ability, because we really don't know what it'll look like yet. Finally, we reach some combat, and this is where the game most resembles Valhalla. Now, once again, we have to take that with a grain of salt. Ubisoft, for whatever reason, didn't really show us any actual combat. Instead, we get a lot of finishers. We see animations of Basim taking the final blow, but we don't have any idea what moment-to-moment combat's going to look like yet, beyond the fact that we know that it will be hitbox-based. Now, the first move we see is a sort of vault over an enemy, and what I immediately think of is the ability in Valhalla, where you could dodge into an enemy who was doing an unblockable attack to automatically vault over them. However, the trailer is edited to make it seem as if Basim then follows this up with a kill strike, which is not something you could do in Valhalla. Perhaps this is a move that players can manually initiate, more like the vaults we had in Revelations or even the old Prince of Persia games. It's also possible that these are two different attacks spliced together for the sake of editing. After some more flashy attacks, we do get a more concretely familiar one. Basim does the running assassination animation from Valhalla on this guard here. Now, I didn't like this animation in Valhalla because it was very inconsistent, and half the time Eivor wouldn't transfer her momentum, stopping dead in her tracks to assassinate the enemy. I would hope that if Mirage is reusing these assassination animations, then they will be faster and less sluggish for Basim, but with how the trailer is paced, it's just hard to tell. I didn't mention this earlier, but the final attack that Basim does in his chain kill sequence is also one of Eivor's animations, and another one that would freeze her in place for a moment and sluggishly kill the enemy. Once again, I am hoping that with fewer animations in play overall, they had the time to smooth out some of these returning ones. That being said, we do get a lot of new animations too. It looks like Basim will fight with a sword and dagger, kind of like Shay and Rogue, and they'll stick with that one weapon throughout the game. Hopefully this gave them the time to polish the animations, because they do look much cleaner here than the animations have looked in a while. Could be the magic of setting these things up for a trailer, but even Unity struggled with selling the impact of the weapons on each hit, and so far it looks much better in Mirage. So overall, I think this trailer was fine, and I am glad to see how the game actually looks in motion. In all honesty, one of the first things I noticed, though, is a lack of confidence. May is not an abnormal time for AC games to start showing things off. Traditionally in the past we would get our first gameplay trailer at E3 and then the game would come out at the end of the year. But in a period where so many games like Final Fantasy XVI are showing us so much stuff for years prior to launch, it feels strange that even now this trailer skirts around a lot of the things that AC fans want to see. Judging by how Basim moves and the type of animations that were reused, I'd wager that this will be a stepping stone toward the older games, not a full-blown, actually polished version of what Unity was trying to do. I didn't need to see this trailer to know that this was never going to be a sequel to Unity that would build off those mechanics. And in all honesty, while I know some people want that, there was so much stuff that never got smoothed out even back then that I don't mind this simpler style. But then the question becomes, can the people behind this game build a product that caters to the strengths of a smaller scale, or will it be a cash grab game to make some money while they continue working on Red? Time will tell, and unlike a lot of people who make videos on this stuff, I am still very excited for this game. I like these games, I have pretty simple tastes, and even when they miss, I get to explore a wonderfully crafted historical setting, and this looks like it's going to give us that. But Mirage has the potential to be more than that as well, and so I guess we'll find out together if it actually ends up delivering. That's all I've got. If you want to see more content from me, as I said, you can follow me on Patreon and join Glebden, but otherwise I look forward to making more content on AC and other stuff in general. Otherwise, have a great day, and do take care of yourself.